Welcome to another insightful episode of Parent Entrepreneur Power. In this podcast, Mary Catherine Johnson and Evan Johnson highlight the successes and struggles of parents in business. They share how to be the example of success in entrepreneurship to foster the same in your child, and so much more. Are you ready to power up?
Okay, welcome everybody to another very exciting episode of Parent Entrepreneur Power. I've got my lovely co-host with me here, as always. She also happens to be my mom, which is very cool. And we have an incredible guest today, Eric Rosenberg. Eric, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, we're very excited to have you. Thank you so much for coming on. So everyone is in the same page. Everyone listening, tell us, who are you and what do you do?
Sure. So as you mentioned, my name's Eric Rosenberg. I'm primarily a freelance writer. So I write for a big range of financial publications and technology startups mostly. So, banks and financial companies. If you Google my name, you'll probably find something out there. If you've ever searched for things like best credit cards or best bank accounts, best investment account, I've written a lot of those kinds of things, a lot of reviews. But what I love doing is I at the end of the day, I'm helping people with their money and I make a living doing it, which is something I think is pretty awesome. And I get to work at home. I get to live on my own schedule. I don't wake up with an alarm clock. I think that was one of my biggest measures of success in life, was the day I didn't have to turn an alarm clock anymore for work. So yeah, it's a good lifestyle. As I mentioned, I mostly work at home. I'm able to travel quite a bit. I have 3 little kids. They're 1, 3, and 5. So it's a busy house. And so I'm working and they're around. 2 of them are around right now. One's at school, and and we're moving forward in that entrepreneurial journey as a parent.
That's exciting.
Oh boy, what a fun journey! 1, 3, and 5.
Yeah, they're busy. We couldn't even have done it on purpose. Their birthdays are almost exactly 2 weeks apart either way. So their birthdays are Halloween and then mid-November, then the first week of December. So we have birthday 5 weeks every year, and they overlap with Thanksgiving and Hanukkah sometimes. So we have birthday and present season in the fall. It's coming up soon.
Oh my gosh! But then you're done, and you go and enjoy the rest of the year, not having to worry about it.
Right. Yeah, we have our big time. Hopefully when the kids get older, they'll have a lot of overlapping friends so we can save some money on birthday parties. We just do one in the middle and go all out.
There you go. Wow.
I feel like it's nice to get it all out in one go.
Yeah, I mean the kids all get to have fun. They get to celebrate each other, and it's a nice time. It's
a crazy holiday season though. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. We have to, really, if you're being a finance writer, we really have to plan ahead for the the budgeting for the gifts.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, oh my goodness, you basically just have to save all your money for the last basically 2.5 months of the year.
Yeah, Halloween through New Year's. That's our that's our gift season for the family.
Wow. Well, that's good. Yeah.
Wow.
Fun. So 1, 3, and 5. So you're obviously not involving them in anything in your business. They're obviously, their job is learning something else right now, obviously.
At this point.
Yeah,
although they love to come into the office. I have a spare keyboard that I don't have plugged in, and they think when they play with a keyboard they're working. So I'll run the wire somewhere and I'll let them sit and they'll type with me. So they can work with me.
When Evan and his brother Riley were little and I was working from home, building businesses and doing fun things, I actually had my old computer. When I got a new computer, this was a Windows 98, so I'm dating myself.
I remember those days.
Yes, a Windows 98 computer, and I had all kinds of games and things like that on it, like the Pooh Bear software and Bob the Builder and rescue trucks and all kinds of different software where they could basically, I had a little table in my office, and when we had time, when mom had to work and they had to kind of work, right? They would sit at that table and play games with, actually there were these pieces of equipment that fit over the keyboard, and they could like drive the truck, and as they drove it hit different keys, or as they pushed levers it hit different keys on the keyboard that would do things on the screen. It was so much fun. So yeah, there's so many things that you can do to have them kind of there while you work and playing, but yet learning and having fun at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, now it's a lot different from when I was a kid. We got our first computer at home when I was 10. So that's my age. That's my day timeline. But my kids, they'll never remember a time we didn't have the entire knowledge of humanity in your pocket at all times. So we have smartphones and a couple tablets around. So every once in a while, if my wife's off taking care of one of the kids or two of the kids, I'll let one of the older ones hang out in the office and play an educational game on the tablet. I like the ones where they're learning about numbers and business and that kind of stuff. No shock, that's the kinds of computer games that I liked to play growing up, and I still kind of like those. If I'm going to play a game, I like business building type games. So I like to share that love and excitement with my kids too.
Yeah, I got to ask a quick question. I'm just curious about this. Because I don't have kids that were absolutely raised, their entire life with computers. I think our boys were, they didn't get a cell phone till they were, I think, 8th grade, 9th grade, getting ready for high school. And it definitely wasn't a smartphone, right, to start with. But
Is it a Nokia little brick that played Snake?
Yeah, it was, flip stuff, that kind of stuff. So are you going to decide to give your kids smartphones when they're in like elementary school?
To be determined. We're just starting kindergarten now. I mean, I hate to say we'll do what the other parents are going to do, but that is probably a big part of the guide, because we want our kids to feel left out. But we're probably not going to be the first ones either. I'm not in a rush to get my kids phones. The longer they can wait, probably the better. But we live in currently 2021, and the world's changing fast. We live not too far from school, so at the age they might be able to start walking home on their own, that's probably when I'd start to think about it. But if we do that, there's some pretty locked down smartphones these days. You don't have to give a 9-year-old the entire internet. You can give them something that they can message a few friends and grandma and auntie and do a map, and that's about it. So that will probably ease them in before just throwing them in the deep end of the internet.
Awesome.
Right.
That sounds great.
Better than showing up to school in the year 2021 with a flip phone, which I think would be probably any child's worst nightmare. Amazing.
So cool. They'd be like, where'd you get a flip phone? That is so cool.
They'd be like,
hey, a pager.
Hold on a sec. Flip.
I had a pager in middle school. Should get them a beeper.
But there are flip phones that are smartphones now.
Yeah, there's new foldable smartphones.
Yeah, there's
flip phones are coming back.
So they don't know which one you got.
Vintage is cool, right? I don't know. I'm not a kid anymore. Like I don't get fashion anymore. Like I thought I was cool. I thought I was like the cool grown up until I realized I wasn't. And I'm just out of touch. So. Kids these days in their high jeans and whatever music they're listening to. Yeah, I'm one of those old guys. I need to get a rocking chair on my porch.
Okay, but I'm 23 and I feel the exact same way. I see some of my friends, I'm like, what are you wearing?
Maybe you have an old soul.
Yeah.
He does. Yes, he does. And he's not bothered by all that stuff, worried about what anyone else thinks and having to keep up. I think there was one time that he went through a phase where he had to wear certain things that could.
Oh yeah, I was the coolest kid in school.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's
for like 6 months, and then I stopped.
The earlier we can realize that it doesn't matter what our fellow students think of us, probably better in our lives. Which it's hard when you're a kid, and that's like where you are every day, all day. But it only takes a year or two after high school to realize how little like all that popularity stuff matters and cool kid stuff matters. I mean, now all my friends, we were probably all the nerdy kids in high school and middle school, but now like we hang out together, we think each other are cool, so that's all that really matters, right? You find your crowd, your cool people, and it just so happens the people I think are cool are into things like Star Trek and magic cards and budgeting and space things, and I think all that stuff's awesome. So call me a nerd, but I think it's awesome.
I'm right in there, a nerd with you. One of my friends has a huge Wrath of Khan movie poster in his room. So yeah,
let alone
Every time
let
I walk in
alone
there, I'd yell that.
what's on his the sticker on his car window. Who is he?
Oh
Yeah,
well,
the,
no,
the
he
Star
has
Trek
a
emblem.
graduate of Starfleet Academy like license plate
Oh
cover
no!
thing.
What are we gonna see?
This is my I got my little communicator handy.
Oh yeah,
That's
there
my
it is.
my one thing I got. Is I got my communicator.
Yes. So fellow nerds, welcome
yeah.
to the world.
We should
Oh
call it
my goodness.
entrepreneuring. Entrepreneuring.
Oh god, that's perfect. That's amazing.
That's why I'm a writer.
From now on, this is
Yeah.
a writer, that's for sure. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh.
So with your kids, do you like have they shown any interest in like what you do, or are they still a bit too young?
A little bit. Like I mentioned earlier, they like to work, but they don't totally get the idea of what my work actually is. And my 5-year-old knows I have to disappear for, 4 to 8 hours a day, where I'm working off in another room and they can't come in and bother me. Um, she knows that I write articles. When she was little, I asked her, if somebody asked you what your daddy did for work, what would you say? She said I was an articler, which was great.
That's
So
amazing.
before she knew I was a writer, she knew I wrote articles. So I was an articler. So she's interested in knowing what I'm doing all day in here in the office, but not really engaged just yet. But what's cool, because I write about money and finance is my main thing, that is something that I can start teaching them young. So even if they're not into the writing part, I'm trying to teach them about banking, a little bit about credit cards, a little bit about how money works. I was trying to explain Bitcoin to a 5-year-old the other day. That was an interesting one. Can't even explain that to a 55-year-old half the time. If you want a crash course in Bitcoin, I can do that. But,
I'm getting
it's,
into NFTs now.
I own one NFT. Just have tried it out because I write about them. I wanted to know how it worked, so I bought an NFT. It's a Dogecoin magic card. I went nerdy there too.
I love that sentence. Like in the like we exist in a time in which that's something a person could buy.
I can say I own a Dogecoin magic card NFT. If you had said all of those words in like the year 1990, none of it would have been anything.
No.
Yeah, people were like, "What are you talking? This doesn't make any sense."
10 years ago, half of it wouldn't have been anything.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
World changes fast.
It's really that's really crazy, right? I mean, I just now got a MetaMask wallet. That was my first baby step, right? Now
because I write about them. I have some locked up, but I have here's one I got as a tester hardware wallet to do a review, which is pretty cool. Super secure.
Wow,
it's a neat ecosystem growing out there. But thinking about what our kids, I mean, you in your 20s, you're already kind of in the young grown up world, but my little kids, thinking about what they have ahead, it's very possible. I was almost certain of it when my daughter, who's 5, was born. Now I'm less certain that she wasn't going to ever have to learn how to drive. I thought I was going to get a car. I mean, yeah, it snows in Colorado, so self-driving cars might take a little longer there. But here in Southern California, where the roads are pretty much always dry and flat, there's no reason. We already have the technology. I could say, okay, car, take daughter to school and come back, and it could do that. So we're not that far off from that kind of thing being our reality. We're computers and AI are going so fast. When I was in grad school, they told us, we were graduating in a year and a half. Many of the jobs we would be doing in graduation didn't exist yet, and that was 18 months away. So 18 years away, when my kids are thinking about college and beyond. And who knows if we'll even have to work? Maybe it'll be like Star Trek, where you'll be able to walk over to something in your kitchen and say, Earl Grey hot, and it will just.
Oh yes, yeah. Money doesn't exist anymore.
And we kind of and this probably isn't where the podcast was meant to go, but the economy is kind of moving in. I'm optimistic it's moving in a direction where we're seeing like universal basic income tests. They're not calling it universal basic income everywhere, but they're doing some kinds of income tests where if we cover people's very, very basics, food, basic shelter, enough to not be in poverty. We're not People aren't going to get rich off it. But if we can really lift up the bottom, the opportunities of what we can all do is pretty exciting. And with automated, farming and automated all sorts of things, there's not a reason at some point in the future food maybe shouldn't be able to be free for everybody. And if you want to work hard and make more money to buy fancy cars and stuff, you'll be able to. But if you want to just um, get by doing very little and get your food allowance, I mean, who knows? Maybe 50, 100 years off, that'll really be happening.
Yeah, I got to say, so a couple of things you just said, brilliant, first off. And they just lend themselves to a couple of really key points. And that is, we're here talking about entrepreneurship. And people can't even really think about what they might want to do as an entrepreneur, or what problem they might want to solve in the world that could create a business, unless they have at least those minimum needs met.
Right.
So if your brain is being used just to have to find those minimum needs to survive, there's no way you can open and free your brain to go beyond that. I mean, you will be stuck in that place. And so, yes, there are people in the United States that are there, even though there are solutions and services and all those things. But if you look at other countries that don't even have any of those needs met, and that still have to walk somewhere to get water, clean water, or still have to, work huge amounts of time to get very little pay. How could we be talking about entrepreneurship and any of these other ideas? And that actually lends itself to the next thing, in bringing in the whole NFT. I'm working with a company that actually is using more carbon credits and using NFTs to offset carbon emissions by partnering with Indigenous people who have farmland and other kinds of resources, so that those Indigenous people can actually own their own future, rather than a huge corporation coming in and having to buy up that and sell it to them, and then give up their entire traditions and ancestry to some big corporation so that they can come in and rape it all. So I mean, where our world is going, I agree with you 100%. It is expanding so fast and providing opportunities so fast that I hope we humans in our brains can keep up with it and take advantage of it and be able to rise above using this kind of technology.
Yeah, we have a lot of opportunities. Actually, we were saying, reminded me of another thing from my MBA program. I remember that same session, the first week, they talked about something called the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profit.
Yes.
And new entrepreneurs, and some of the most successful entrepreneurs we're seeing, can really succeed in all three of those at once. And maybe even succeed better than the companies that are trying to just take and not give back. And you're looking at some examples. I have some solar panels on my roof. The solar industry has gone, from almost nothing, 10, 20 years ago, when a solar panel cost as much as a car, to now these companies have come and they're making the planet better. They're making a ton of money selling solar panels. It comes full circle where, and in doing that, we're preventing climate change to some degree. We're doing a lot of good stuff. That's just one example. There's nonprofits out there which require entrepreneurial know-how. One like Charity Water, that came to mind when you were talking there, raising money to give clean water to everyone in the world. And if we're really the richest country in the world, I feel like we should be able to do that. We could. There's no reason children should be dying in India or Africa because they don't have clean water, and hundreds of thousands do every year. That's like hundreds of thousands. It's like my whole city of children just dying because they don't have clean water. And that's something that's not like some pipe dream. We know how to fix it. We have the technology, we have the ability. But there's some cool things happening around that, like the Coca-Cola company. They need clean water to sell their product. So they often go into cities and they'll build clean water plants, and they'll just give the clean water to the city, and everyone will hopefully like them and buy Coke. But so, it's a triple bottom line thing. I guess, sugary drinks aren't so good for people, but going in and building clean water facilities is good for people. So there are opportunities even for big corporations to go help. And little entrepreneurs. It has to start somewhere. Every idea started with the first sale or the first idea, the first little spark. So whether it's starting a business or starting a nonprofit or starting college, whatever you're trying to do, be creative and think forward, think to the future. There's a lot of opportunity.
Oh yeah. Are you wanting your kids to go to college?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
If you 100% with zero hesitation, I see debates about it, but at the end of the day, again, writer, I look at statistics all day. If you have a college degree, chances are you're going to make 2 or 3 times as much. Whether or not that should be the case, that is the case. So I don't want my kids to be poor or struggle. And if whatever entrepreneurial idea they might have doesn't work out, I have 2 finance degrees to fall back on. That's not so bad. I would really encourage my kids to do some type of STEM related field, whatever that is. If they want to learn history or English or writer, I'm saying that, or art history or something fun, those are great electives. But if they want my support for college, they should learn something that leads to a job. That's my focus for them is have a career path that they can choose, and maybe that'll be great for them, and maybe they'll be like me and quit their career path and start something else. But yeah, I think college is so important, and even beyond the classes, just the life experience of being out there and being with other students your age, learning how to live on your own as a grown up. It was a lot of fun for me. It was a great time in life, and I learned so much, and I definitely want my kids to have that experience too. Then maybe they can drink a little less than I did in college.
What
Yeah,
would
I
you
think
do if what would you do if they said, I don't want to go to college?
Um, we'd have a long talk. I, I would unfortunately have a long time before that might come up, but we'd probably be having a long talk about why and what they think they're going to do with their life and how they think they're going to support themselves. Um, yeah, and I know there are many people who can get have a great life that don't go to college. There are some people who I'm a big fan of trade schools for a lot of people, and that's not a traditional 4-year college, but it's an education that is career focused. That's really what it is about to me. It's a career focused education, and so if they decided they wanted to be I have my pilot's license, so they wanted to be an airplane mechanic, and go to trade school and get that education. I don't know that I wouldn't be thrilled, but I would probably support them. If they just said they wanted to go, get a retail job and travel, they wouldn't. It wouldn't be such a happy conversation.
what if they want to start a business or something along those lines?
That I'd be supportive of, but again, I'd come back to, I think part of the reason I'm so successful in what I'm doing is because I went to business school. I learned how to run a business. So now, I look, actually, I can tell you an exact story of something I learned at school that has helped my finances and my income, even as an entrepreneur. When I started working full time on my own, I do all my own accounting and my own bookkeeping. And that is something I learned how to do in college. And I was a financial analyst. I do my own financial analysis. That was something I learned how to do in college. And one day I was probably 3 to 6 months into being a full-time self-employed entrepreneur. I'd quit the job, was doing my own thing. And I was looking at my books because I was trying to figure out, before I quit my job, I'd done 40,000 in income the year before. So I figure the next year I should at least double that, because I was going from 10 to 20 hours a week to 30 to 50 hours a week. So doubling my time, I'd expect to at least double. And I saw my time was going up, but my income wasn't going up at the same rate. So I sat down and I looked at my accounting records really closely after I do them every month, which I encourage every entrepreneur to do. I put my accounting records together and I noticed about 76% of my income was coming from writing, and about 15, let's round up, let's call it 20%, was coming from website work, though about 80% of my time was going into the website work and 20% was going into the writing, which, that's the 80-20 rule. It smacked me in the face, the Pareto principle. And it was in my accounting records. I knew it because I went to school to learn to be a financial analyst. I financial analyzed. I found a trend. I found a problem in my books. And based on that, I totally re-engineered my business. I wrote all my website clients who were paying me money every month to do a recurring service and said, next month's my last month. Don't pay me anymore. I'll help you find someone new if you want someone new. And my income did go down right away because of that. I just cut off a business. But in the next 3 months, by focusing on what was working best, my income roughly tripled and broke 6 figures for the first time and hasn't gone back down. And that happened because I went to college and learned how to do it. And I know some other people who, like, I'm not going to pick on this person, but I know someone who owned a business and it could have been a very successful business. And this person didn't go to college and didn't understand the financial side of it. He understood the operations. He got the day-to-day stuff, the frontline stuff, dealing with clients and customers, dealing with employees even, but he didn't know how, the math works. He didn't know how the behind the scenes stuff worked and the money worked. And the business ended up going bust because he got in this point where he had this huge overhead and he was spending all this money every month and he was locked into these huge expenses. And I'd sat down with him several times with his QuickBooks open, like, look at this, like, here's where your money's going, here's where it's coming from. Like, the number one thing you could do is this one change in your business and you'll be making a ton of money, but if you don't, you'll go bankrupt. And he didn't, and his business closed. So that's not everybody's case. There are many people who didn't go to college who are incredibly successful. They're the most successful people in our country are Harvard dropouts. That's the number one way to be a billionaire is drop out of Harvard, like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. But most of us don't even get into Harvard to drop out in the beginning. But I think some form of college education is still just so important, so foundational. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you for that. And the only thing I will say is I have to be totally honest and say that I completely disagree with you. And the main reason is because all of that exact same information is available outside of college and available to anyone who wants to open up their laptop and find it and be able to learn it. And
but do you think people would really, most people, do you think they'd really sit down and learn it and get the same experience that they would have out of a 4-year degree?
Really good question. I think we're talking about two completely different things. It's not the college that gives you that education. It's your mindset that opens you up to needing that information. So that person you mentioned, it has nothing to do with whether he knew it or not. You showed him. That's not the issue. You showed him exactly what he needed to do. It was his own mindset that stopped him from taking that advice and actually implementing what you were showing him how to do. So yeah, if I agree, if you're going to be an attorney, if you're going to be a doctor, if you're going to be something that, or you want to do a job that actually requires that you have a specific formulated education to do that job, absolutely 100%. But if it's just to get a college education, just to do it for the experience, or just to do it because you think it's something that needs to happen, our world has changed so drastically from that mindset that I can educate myself in any area if I want to. If I don't want to, of course I'm not going to. And I
wouldn't do it. So I wouldn't do it just because. That is like when I was saying I'm very career oriented with my thoughts on college. If somebody wants to learn, like I said, art history. I'll pick on another friend, not by name. I had a friend in college who we had one of my favorite classes in college was a history class, Russian Revolutionary History, which has benefited my life about zero knowing about it. But other than it's really interesting and I enjoyed it. And I remember sitting with my friend who was a history major in that class. And this was my only history class in college. And it was like all she did was history classes. And I said, well, what do you want to do after you're done with school? And she was kind of like, well, I don't really know. And now she works in a call center. And she's worked in a few call centers. And not to pick on call centers, it can be a good job for some people. But I don't think that was really what she saw herself doing in her life. I've been in call centers. It's hard. It's a hard day, and people yelling at you all day on the phone. It's not fun. But she was kind of aimless with it. And I remember this conversation. I said, well, are you going to be a teacher or a lawyer? Like, what are the two things you're going to do with your history degrees? Those are pretty much the things. You go be a teacher, or you go be a lawyer. I'm career focused when I look at college. And she did not have and still doesn't have a good relationship with her parents. So she didn't have kind of that career guidance. So she was just like, well, I think history is fun and that's what I want to learn. So if my kid says to me, I want to go to college and learn this because it's fun, I'm going to have a different answer than if they say I want to learn this because it's what I want to be when I grow up. That's really my big focus on it. Is the um, it's how you're going to support yourself, and that was something my parents instilled in me, and my grandparents instilled in them. My grandpa grew up in the Great Depression. He saw the worst of the worst. And we look outside, we see a lot of people who can't support themselves, and um, so career focused education. And I have to come
Oh
back
yeah.
to, I know we'll disagree, but the numbers, like the BLS, it's a fact of America is if you have a college degree, you have again, not everybody, but there's a much, much, much higher chance you're going to earn more. And I don't know that there are many jobs that require a college degree that probably shouldn't, but they do. So
Right.
whether or not that's right or wrong, if you don't have the college degree, you're just probably 60 to 80% of the best paying jobs in America are just not available to you at all, period. So whether or not that's good or bad, that is the case. So I wouldn't want my kids to be in a position where they don't have access to those if that's what they want to do.
I will say that college degrees definitely help with, like you're saying, if you have a desire to work in corporate America or something along
Yeah,
those lines.
specific jobs, specific
Exactly.
careers.
That's my thing though, is like if a child, like I think college is for if I want to do this thing, and to do this thing, or in this realm of things, it requires a college degree. You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
someone came to me and said, I want to do, I want to run I don't know, a Facebook ads agency, or I want to do some sort of online entrepreneur work where it's not like I feel like a brick and mortar business is a bit different. There's a bit more that goes into that as far as overhead and all that kind of stuff, and it gets a little more complicated. But if they want to run some sort of online business, which a lot more people are doing as the world moves forward, especially after COVID, I feel like people
Oh,
are
yeah.
like, oh wow, do
Everything
some.
changed.
Exactly, like doing some sort of pretend, maybe freelance writing or something like that. There are an absolutely insane amount of online resources available to those people, and so I would,
I've
depending.
created a lot of them.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. So depending, I mean, unless they were like, I want to go to a business school for this, like that's my desire to do, I'd be like, all right, yeah, go for it. But getting a degree in that would not be my first recommendation, just because, I mean, in most cases the investment is absolutely ridiculous, like the amount of money you have to put in when
I
you could
spent
get the
on my
same information
MBA,
online.
I spent about $90,000, which is a ton of money. But I actually sat down because I'm the finance guy and I did the ROI. And I knew my next job I 100% got because of my MBA. It was someone I knew at my MBA program, which is actually you get more out of that from an MBA program than probably what you learn there. The networking
Yeah.
and the piece of paper that says you're more educated than someone else is worth a lot. Again, maybe
Oh
it
yeah.
shouldn't be, but that's America today. So my next job, I was able to figure out, in this many years, my MBA will have paid for itself, and in this many more years, it's all profit. And then I got a really big raise about a year and a half after that, and that cut my payback period on the MBA, which I know I got the job because of the MBA. The boss told me that was why he picked me over someone else. So that cut the payback period on the MBA down to 3-4 years. So now it has paid for itself. It's 10 years after my MBA, it's probably paid for itself 5 times. And it keeps paying for itself every day. So for me, it has worked out incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people get an MBA and I get, again, it depends on your degree. Like another I picked on history, I've picked on, let's see how many people I can make mad today. Social work is another one I can pick on really easily. It's such an important profession. Like we need social workers. It is, and I'm not going to get down on that. I have, I use a therapy thing, and he has a social working background. Therapy and social working, it's good people. When my dad was sick with cancer, we had a social worker come help us deal with things. So that's not getting down on social workers, but I have a friend who got a master's degree in social work at the same school I got my MBA. And I remember talking to her thinking, like, how are you going to pay for this? Her longer program cost more than my MBA. And at the end of an MBA program, again, I know the statistics, I'm probably going to make six figures. And it doesn't matter what degree you have in social work, you're probably going to make like 25, 28,000 starting out, and you're going to peak probably maybe 40,000 ish. If you live in a big city like New York or San Francisco, probably a little more cost of living. But most places in America, you're like max you're ever going to make as a social worker is going to be around 40,000. So why would you then go spend $200,000, $120,000 to get a social working degree? And that doesn't make sense to me. Like, it's you got to do the math, think about what you're going to do and how life's going to work out.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm still on super strong on team college, but you got to be strategic. You got to think about why you're doing what you're doing. Just going to college because that's what everyone does, and then thinking you're going to figure it out, that's probably not a wise decision. I knew when I started college, I was either going to do finance or marketing. I didn't know between those two, but I knew it was going to be one of those two. So I had a direction, but the kids who go in with an undeclared major, it's hard. Like, it sucks that we live in a world where you kind of have to figure out what you want to be when you grow up when you're 18, but you do. And unless you have wealthy and generous parents who are going to keep paying for you, you got to figure something out. And the best way for most people to live comfortably is that path. But yeah, if you want to start an online business, if you are a real self-starter and you're bright and you're willing to take the time to do all the reading or listen to the podcasts and do all this stuff, you could absolutely learn the same skills without a teacher. You don't have to spend the money to get that knowledge. But for most people, I think having the structure of a curriculum and kind of these are the things that we're going to learn in this order. Most people probably do better with that than trying to figure it out on their own. And there's always going to be exceptions. There are always going to be people who, the Elon Musks of the world who just figure things out. But
well, I've got two exceptions. Then I've got two exceptions. Both of
there's always going to be lots of exceptions. Everything.
Both of them, and I really have to say I hit their father and I. Their father is much more like you. He has my husband has an economics degree. Business economics degree with a concentration in accounting and taxes, and he's very career focused and do this to get a job and
go get a beer.
Yourself. What's that?
We'll talk numbers.
Yeah,
so we should go get a beer.
Completely. Yeah, he doesn't drink beer, but anyway.
We'll get a whiskey. We'll get a water.
So that, and then on the other side, I'm on the other side where I got my degree in nutrition and food science from UC Berkeley. It was very scientific. I loved it. It was just totally lit up my mind, and amazing stuff I love to this day. But not doing that anymore as a degree, and even as a writer, because I was also freelance writing in the scientific field. There was only one time that anyone asked me for my degree, and to verify that I was writing, scientifically, that I knew what I was talking about. But beyond that, completely entrepreneurial now, just having a great time, doing really fun things, solving really incredible problems, and helping lots of incredible people. And both of my sons, one of them was more focused on exactly what he wanted to do, knew exactly what he wanted to do, went and applied to a college, got accepted to the college, but before that had already developed a portfolio for himself about what exactly he was doing and playing with it and learning it and growing it, and had this portfolio online, and was actually offered a job 4 weeks into his freshman year for the exact thing that he was going to possibly go after he graduated.
Wow.
So he's like, why am I going to college? Right.
I have a friend who, it took him longer, but he ended up getting a job based on a skill that he knew that was not his degree. And he started working computer science, and he didn't like computer science classes, so he switched to linguistics and got his degree in linguistics. An interesting guy, but he worked in computer science. And then he ended up going and getting a master's in computer science that his company paid for. But at that point, it was free, so why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, so he had that skill going in. He already knew how to be a computer programmer. As if somebody's willing, yeah, if you're willing to learn the skill, like
That's it. And it's all
in
a
the coding
mindset.
world,
It's a
like in the
mindset.
coding world, like there's coding boot camps, there's online courses, there's lots of things that you can learn to be a coder. I mean, I'd say that's every field we'd have to look at specifically on the path there. So coding, like if you have the degree, you can walk into a lot of companies now. Without the degree, if you have a portfolio, you can probably get a very, very similar job. And once you're in, the career path looks similar and the skills look similar. But
It's an
you have
individual
to
thing.
have that foundation, right? You have to know you have to have the knowledge foundation to start wherever you get it.
Yeah. And it's individual. It's just each individual makes an individual decision based on their situation, their desires, their goals. I just love the opportunities we have right now. All the things that we've been talking about, whether it's environmental, whether it's social, whether it's entrepreneurial or capitalistic, it really, the opportunities that we have in front of us are opportunities that are changing so fast and creating even newer opportunities and difficulties at the same time, as always is the case with us humans. It's just so fascinating to talk to people at so many different walks of life and perspectives, that there's no one right answer for anyone, at least not to me.
I look at my sister. I mean, we're so different. She's a doctor, so she's actually still in school. But she's keeping schooling for another, like, I don't know, till she's like 75 or something. She'll keep being in school. But like I couldn't even give somebody a shot, I don't think. Like she's a surgeon. She cuts people open for a living. Like I would not stick a needle in someone's arm. If we were gonna like save their life, I could probably stomach it. But that's like, I'm not giving somebody a shot. I'm not cutting anybody open.
No.
I'll clean my kid's scraped knee. That's about as far as my medical enjoyment goes.
And that's tough, right?
She looks at a spreadsheet and her eyes just start to cross. And I look at a spreadsheet. I'm like, I'm on my game. So and we're two kids from the same parents, and we're that different. And my kids, my two oldest are girls, and I thought my second one, I mean, almost even the same birth month, like their birthdays are 5 weeks off. I thought, well, they're going to be like the exact same person, right? They look the same parents, same house, same situation. They're so different. So yeah, if age has told me anything, it's the wisdom I've learned is that everyone is different, and that we can't expect everyone to think the same, act the same, do the same, even from the same parents.
Yes, absolutely. I agree 100%. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We're all unique snowflakes. Tyler Durden was wrong in the movie Fight Club. We are unique and individual snowflakes.
Yeah, that is very, very true. Yeah, I definitely respect your opinions on college. I think it's cool to hear that you like it because of a reason, not because oftentimes I hear parents talk about how they want their kid to go to college just because they should go to college and there's no other option. And it's that's simply not true.
If you're gonna have anything you do in life, you should have a reason. You shouldn't do anything just because. Don't do anything just because other people do it. Don't do anything because it's the way things have always been done. Is like the most angering answer. When I worked in corporate land, it's like the worst thing I ever had anyone tell me. Like, well, why are you doing that? Well, it's because how we've always done it. I'm like, well, how you've always done it's stupid. Let's find a better way. So yeah, like have reasons, think things through. It's especially if it's something as big of a commitment as like where to go to school, how much you're going to spend, a degree. I mean, all these things. I mean, these are like big life decisions. And if you're making a tens of thousands of dollars commitment or more, years of your life's commitment, you should know why you're doing it and not just go in blindly.
Yeah, there it is. That's perfect. So as we start to wind down the conversation, we like to end with the same question. And that is by asking, if you were to die tomorrow, what would be the entrepreneurial legacy that you would leave for your kids to use if they potentially grow into entrepreneurs themselves?
I think, and that's a great question. So my dad actually my family owned a video store when I was a kid. We know what happened to video stores, but my dad had the entrepreneurial gene, and he definitely gave that to me. And I hope to give that to my kids. I think it's a great thing to be a business leader and make your own way in the world. So I'd hope to leave the that idea. I don't think they're gonna I'm not building the kind of business that's really saleable. It's like I am the business, I am the service, and I do have thoughts on scalable businesses in the future. I'm not just going to be a writer forever as my plan, but I'm enjoying it now. It's a great gig. But I would like my kids to know that they have the ability, and I would like to leave them. I guess one, I can't leave that much of a legacy to teach them how to build a business, but I'd like to leave them with the knowledge they can be their own boss. They can find their own way in the world. Chris Guillebeau in the book The Art of Nonconformity said a great quote: "You don't have to live your life the way other people expect you to." And that shouldn't be a famous quote, but it should be really obvious, but it's not to a lot of people. And we live in a world with a lot of expectations, and I'm sure I have expectations for my kids, but but hopefully, they find their way, and we can be supportive and help them do the things that they want to do. And if they see an entrepreneurial opportunity where they could be their boss and make a living and make the world hopefully a little better place doing it, I hope they would take it, because that's I think what it's all about. Living the best life you can, and if you can get rich along the way, that's awesome. And if you can help make the world a better place, that's even better.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Well, thank you so much, Eric, for coming on the show. We appreciate you for that. If people are interested in you and what you do, where can they find out more about you?
The easiest place to go, I just set up, just type in your browser eric.money. That's the URL. And you'll find links to my podcast, a free boot camp, the blog, all the good stuff. And my Twitter is the easiest way to reach me if you ever want to chat or have any questions. I'm Eric Profit on Twitter.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Well, thank you so much, Eric, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Parent Entrepreneur Power. Hopefully you came away with valuable tools you can use in your business, life, and relationship with your kids. If you want to hear more about our mission, or if you want more insights into cultivating your parent entrepreneur power, join our movement to make entrepreneurship more accessible to parents and their kids at parententrepreneurpower.com.